Hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new edition of World Panorama with me, Frank Pereira. Over the next half an hour, we'll bring you a roundup of all the significant events that have taken place across the world. And let's begin right now with the headlines. India lodges protest with Pakistan after the release of 26/11 attack mastermind Zakir-ur Rehman Lakhvi from jail. France joins India in expressing disappointment over verdict. Prime Minister Narendra Modi meets French President François Hollande. Both nations overcome hurdles on Rafale fighter jets and nuclear energy. India wraps up rescue operations in Yemen after evacuating over 5,500 people, shuts down embassy in Sana'a. And cricket loses its voice. Richie Benn passes away aged 84. World pays tribute to former Australian captain and iconic cricket commentator. Well, India lodged a protest with Pakistan over the release of the mastermind of 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, Zaki-ur Rehman Lakhvi. The Lahore High Court had ordered the release, terming his detention as illegal. India summoned Pakistan's ambassador Abdul Basit, while the Indian High Commissioner in Islamabad met Pak Foreign Secretary after Lakhvi's release. Reacting to India's protest, Pakistan said that Delhi should not cast aspersions on Islamabad's intentions. Lakhvi was arrested in December 2008 and was indicted along with the 6 others in 2009 in connection with the 26/11 attack case. Meanwhile, French President François Hollande also expressed deep shock over Lakhvi's release.
मैं ये कहना चाहता हूं कि जो कुछ भी लखवी के साथ पाकिस्तान में हुआ है उससे हम लोग निराश हुए हैं। भारत तो चाहता है कि पाकिस्तान के साथ हमारे रिश्ते बेहतर हों, अच्छे हों, पड़ोसी देश है, दोस्ताना रिश्ते उसके साथ हों। लेकिन जो कुछ भी हाल फिलहाल हुआ है लखवी के मामले में वो बहुत ही दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है और बहुत ही निराशाजनक है।
The French delegation raised the issue of the unfortunate release of the terrorist Mr. Zakir-ur Rehman Lakhvi in Pakistan, and they said this was not good news for either India or for the world. They strongly expressed their solidarity for India.
Joining me for a chat today to talk about this is former diplomat Mr. Parthasarathy. Ambassador, thank you for joining me on the program. Welcome.
Thank you.
You know, looking at the developments over the last few months, this was bound to happen, wasn't it?
Of course it was bound to happen. For Pakistan to claim that there was not enough evidence is ridiculous. First of all, we have got hold of Zabiuddin Ansari, who is an Indian national, who was actually conducting the operations in Karachi, where Zakir-ur Rehman Lakhvi was present. There is his testimony. There is the testimony of Dawood Jilani alias David Headley in Chicago in his trial to the FBI. He has testified before the NIA. Then there is the voice casts of Zakir-ur Rehman Lakhvi, easy voice identification. Then there is the entire boat which brought them, which we know where it came from. It came from Japan. The details are available to us. So for Pakistan to claim there was not enough evidence is ludicrous. But I look at it in a different pattern. I think we've handled this ineptly. It should have been obvious that, especially after the Zardari government came, and Nawaz Sharif became Prime Minister, that nothing is going to move. After all, Nawaz Sharif's brother, as Chief Minister of Punjab, has been funding the Jamaat-ud-Dawa. There are family connections going back to 20 years with the Lashkar-e-Taiba. So we should have known nothing would happen. Therefore, I think it was incumbent for us to have brought the world community in. For example, 7 American nationals killed in this attack. Under American law, the FBI is obliged to prosecute them.
Yes.
Why have we not asked the FBI to prosecute them? And if the Americans are resisting, why aren't we not putting pressure to the American Congress? I think diplomatic handling from day one, and especially after Sharm el-Sheikh, has been, to put it mildly, inept and ineffective.
All right. You know, that's true. That's another aspect of it. You know, France, the US and Israel have condemned it. They have expressed shock as far as the release of Zakir-ur Rehman Lakhvi is concerned. But what does India really need to do from here now?
I think, let us be very, very clear. Unless we mount a worldwide campaign, unless we make this a condition for substantive dialogue, Pakistan is going to do nothing. And the best way to bring pressure on them is through the Americans. American nationals have died. Even if the Obama administration refuses to act, we can get public interest litigation from the relatives, we can get others in the United States, including influential congressmen, who would be waiting to do this. I am
using
afraid
the diplomatic channels would be the best way to pursue this.
That is the best way. There are other covert ways to do so, which are best left aside.
Indeed, there are covert ways that's best not discussed at the moment. But you know, there are 6 others accused as far as this particular case is concerned. Does this verdict really pave the way for them to be released?
Absolutely. If the prime accused gets away, and here is a man whose voice casts we have, whose voice cast Pakistan refuses to match. Here is the evidence of Zabiuddin Ansari, an Indian national, in an Indian court. Evidence in a Chicago court. What more does Pakistan want? For them to say we should be providing, that is ridiculous. Why haven't they gone to America and obtained it themselves? We would have facilitated it. No. I was very clear once the Nawaz Sharif administration came and his brother as Chief Minister of Punjab was funding the Jamaat-ud-Dawa, nothing was going to move. So why don't we accept reality and go about it instead of pussyfooting?
You know, isn't this an issue really for Pakistan as well? Because now that Zaki-ur Rehman Lakhvi is released, you know, there's going to be a situation in Pakistan that's going to deteriorate as well. And then we're going to have a problem in Kashmir as well. So it's a problem for both nations.
No, I think as far as Pakistan is concerned, there are 2 categories of terrorists. The bad terrorist who attacks the Pakistan army and the good terrorist who attacks Afghanistan and India. The good terrorist who attacks Afghanistan is the Haqqani group, which is living as comfortably as Osama bin Laden was. And then the good terrorist is the Lashkar-e-Taiba, which attacks India and gets money from the Punjab government, headed by Shehbaz Sharif, the Prime Minister's brother.
Indeed. You know, now Prime Minister Modi is on an 8-day visit. He's already in France. He's going to Germany next and then Canada. So should he raise this issue with the respective heads of state?
It will be raised. I mean, I think it's because terrorism by Pakistan affects not only us, but this form of extremism, which is spurned as terrorism in Pakistan, is a matter of serious concern even in the European Union and even in Canada.
Yes.
So yes, it will be raised, it should be raised. But ultimately, the effective big stick is carried by the United States. Why have we not taken up the issue of forcing the Americans to try these guys in an American court?
Indeed, that's the biggest issue. And do you see that issue being raised by this particular government? Because the government has shown the right kind of steps, the right kind of movement as far as foreign policy is concerned. Can we take it a step further?
Well, I think certainly by the way at least we have reacted to Pakistani transgressions on the border. Yes, I'm quite pleased that we have acted firmly. But that sort of firmness has to be combined with imagination and diplomacy, which I'm afraid has not been there thus far.
All right. All right. Ambassador Parthasarathy, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for your thought-provoking comments that you've made here on the program. We hope that something happens and things move in the right direction. I guess we'll have to wait for some time and see if that really happens. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, moving on now, India and France overcame hurdles on Rafale fighter jets and nuclear energy after a summit between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and French President François Hollande in Paris. Areva and Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited took the first concrete steps towards making the Jaitapur nuclear power plants a reality, with both companies signing an early works agreement. A far more important agreement was signed between L&T and Areva, opening the door to nuclear manufacturing in India. On security, both countries agreed to partner each other in the Indian Ocean region. Indian and French navies will hold joint exercises later this month in the Indian Ocean, with the French aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle taking part for the first time. Infrastructure being close to Modi's heart, discussions through his first day in France focused on clean Ganga, railways, waste management and smart cities. France has been designated a partner country for development of smart cities. On Saturday, Modi flew to Toulouse, regarded as one of Europe's smartest cities. France's SNCF signed a pact with the Indian Railways to look at the modernization of the Delhi-Chandigarh rail route and introduction of French LGV trains. The Indian MNRE and its French counterpart also signed a deal for scientific cooperation on renewable energy, focusing on solar energy. In all, 17 deals were signed between the two countries, with Make in India getting a major push.
मुझे खुशी है कि जैतापुर में 6 न्यूक्लियर प्लांट बनाने पर हमने प्रगति की है। बिजली बनाने की कीमत को कम करने के संदर्भ में और अधिक तकनीकी समीक्षा और स्टडी करने के लिए दोनों पक्षों ने आज समझौता किया है।
Je suis très sensible aux annonces que vous avez pu faire cet après-midi ici à Paris, en matière d'énergie, d'espace, de développement durable et de défense.
Well, India has wrapped up Operation Rahat in Yemen. The Navy and Air Force successfully evacuated over 5,500 Indians stranded in that country. The last batch of 630 people was evacuated from Sana'a on Friday as the centre closed the Indian embassy. Here's more.
India has ended its massive evacuation efforts in Yemen. Amid violent clashes and Saudi-led airstrikes, the Navy and Air Force braved heavy bombing to pull out 4,640 Indians from the war-torn country. That's not all. The forces also helped 960 foreigners from 41 countries to leave Yemen amid the crisis. External Affairs Ministry tweeted that the centre has shut down its embassy in Yemen's capital Sana'a after successful completion of one of the biggest rescue missions undertaken by the country in recent years.
काफी चैलेंजेस हैं और इवैक्यूएट करने में, क्योंकि आखिर के अंदर जो है लोग बाग निकल कर आते हैं, तो इसलिए काफी दिक्कत आती है निकालने के अंदर। और दूसरा, क्योंकि अदन के अंदर बाकी जगह पर गोलीबारी चल रही है, सना के आसपास गोलीबारी चल रही है, तो जो हालात हैं उसके अंदर निकालने में परेशानी तो है।
One of the last batches of rescued Indians reached home early on Friday. A 5-day-old baby was among the last and the youngest of the Indians to be rescued in the entire operation.
We brought the baby in the incubator with phototherapy, oxygen and IV fluids, so that during transportation of 5-6 hours the baby is quite stable. So now baby is okay. We will take the baby to the hospital and should be all right.
इस वक्त हालात बहुत खराब हैं, आपस में क्लैशेस हो रहे हैं और सऊदी गवर्नमेंट और शिया की, और रोज रात को मतलब अटैक होता है। इसके लिए स्कूल वगैरह बंद है और कामकाज ठप हो गया है।
On the last day, India rescued over 600 people from Sana'a. 3 special Air India flights will be flying them home, ending the operation that started on 3rd April. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, the situation in Yemen continues to deteriorate as Saudi-led coalition airstrikes continue against the Houthi rebels. The militants have reportedly taken the city of Ataq in the south and within striking distance of one of Yemen's largest gas fields. Humanitarian crisis in the country has also deepened. However, the Red Cross on Friday made its first shipment of emergency medical aid to the country. A cargo plane arrived in Sana'a carrying over 16 tons of medical supplies. Meanwhile, tensions between Iran and Saudi Arabia deepened as Ayatollah Ali Khamenei denounced the Saudi airstrikes as genocide. Pakistan has also decided against military involvement in the fighting, turning down Saudi Arabia's request to contribute ships, aircraft and troops.
We are very happy today because the first plane we wanted to arrive in Sana'a finally arrived after 10 days. Is now full of 16 tons of emergency medical assistance, which is very needy now in Yemen. We expect a second plane tomorrow, hopefully. We have a surgical team as well who arrive in Aden, and now our work will be to distribute this assistance within the country.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but up ahead on the program, world pays tribute to Richie Benn, the former Australian captain and iconic cricket commentator who died aged 84. That and much more coming up. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. Well, Iran and 6 Western nations may have reached a preliminary nuclear deal framework, but Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei said that's far from any indication of the final pact coming through, indicating that Iran was ready to play hardball. Khamenei demanded that all sanctions on Iran be lifted at the same time as any final agreement with world powers on curbing Tehran's nuclear program is concluded. The issue remains a big stumbling block in negotiations. The Supreme Leader repeated his faith in President Hassan Rouhani's negotiating team, but in remarks apparently meant to keep hardline loyalists at bay, he warned of what he called the devilish intentions of the United States. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
توافق را و مذاکره منتهی به توافق رو تضمین میکنه، نه محتوای توافق رو تضمین میکنه، هیچ کدوم رو. حتی تضمین نمی کند که این مذاکرات تا به آخر برسد و به یک توافق منتهی بشه، بلکه از باب تجربه.
Moving on now, Boston Marathon bombing suspect Zakirrahman has been declared guilty of carrying out the attack as well as the fatal shooting of a police officer. The jury hearing the Boston Marathon bombing on Wednesday found Sarnaev guilty of killing 3 people and injuring 264 in the April 15, 2013 attack. 17 of the 30 charges against him carry the death penalty. The jury that found him guilty will now decide whether to sentence him to death or life in a prison without possibility of parole. Jurors spent just over 11 hours evaluating Sarnaev's guilty in 2 days of deliberation, following 16 days of testimony. While 2 pressure cooker bombs had exploded near the finish line during the Boston Marathon in 2013, killing 3 people on the spot and injuring 264 others.
We just, as a group, we wanted to come out and say thank you to everyone who's worked so hard to make this happen. We're obviously grateful for the outcome today. It's not a happy occasion, but it's something that we can put, one more step behind us. We're all going to move on with our lives, and we're all going to get back to some sense of normalcy, hopefully, when this is all done. So closure, I guess, I don't think so, only because it's forever a part of our life.
Well, much else has been unfolding around the world. Here's a quick wrap of the other international news of the week.
A gunman has killed 3 people in a shooting spree at the Palace of Justice in Milan in northern Italy on Thursday. The killer was reportedly a defendant in a bankruptcy case. He is believed to have shot dead a co-defendant, his former lawyer and a bankruptcy court judge. The suspect was later arrested by the police in a suburb after fleeing the scene on a motorbike. French magistrates have ordered HSBC Holdings to post a €1 billion bail to cover a potential fine after the bank was put under a formal criminal investigation over alleged past tax-related offences. HSBC said it believed the French magistrates' decision was without legal basis and the bail is unwarranted and excessive. HSBC is the second big bank after Switzerland's UBS to have a hefty bail imposed on it by the French magistrates. Islamic State militants released more than 200 members of the Yazidi religious community being held in northern Iraq on Wednesday. All those released were elderly or infirm and also included 2 Christians. Most of the 216 prisoners were in poor health and bore signs of abuse. The Islamic State attacked the Yazidis in Iraq last year, killing and abducting thousands. Meanwhile, Iraqi troops have said they are gaining ground in a fresh offensive against the Islamic State in the western province of Anbar. At least 10 people were killed and 65 others wounded in an attack at a provincial attorney's office in the northern Afghan city of Mazar-e-Sharif on Thursday. Nearly 63 people, including 26 officials, women and children, sustained injuries and were transferred to hospitals. The attack comes after Afghan security forces assumed full security responsibility from the NATO-led troops on the 1st of January this year. The Taliban has claimed responsibility for the attack. At least 21 people died and 17 others are missing in a suspected boat capsize off Haiti's northern coast. The group was among 50 believed to be aboard a boat that was headed north to the nearby Turks and Caicos Islands. Survivors told police that the boat encountered bad weather and tried to return to Haiti when it hit something. The bodies began to wash ashore on Thursday morning in the coastal town of Le Bon, about 100 miles north of the capital, Port-au-Prince.
Well, former Australian cricket captain and commentator Richie Benn has passed away. He was the face and voice of Australian cricket for decades. The world has been paying tribute to the legend ever since his death on Thursday night. April 9th, 2015 was the day that cricket lost its voice. Former Australia cricket captain Richie Benn, the celebrated voice of cricket, died at the age of 84 after battling skin cancer, prompting a flood of tributes from around the world. A giant figure in the game both on and off the field, Benn died peacefully in his sleep in a Sydney hospice late on Thursday. After a car crash near his Sydney home in 2013, Benn was unable to take his spot in the commentary box and his public appearances became rare and fleeting. He announced that he had skin cancer in November with typical understatement. Weeks later, his voice, quavering but clear, rang out over the Adelaide Oval in a short but poignant video tribute to Australian batsman Philip Hughes, who died at the age of 25 after being struck by a ball. Flags flew at half-mast at the Sydney Cricket Ground, Benno's home as a first-class cricketer for New South Wales. Flowers were also laid at the foot of his statue at the venue.
Australia is not known for being a religious country, but cricket would be the closest thing to a national religion, and Richie Benn would be the equivalent of Pope.
A former police reporter, his media career would ultimately overshadow his playing tenure, though he had 63 tests for his country and was considered pivotal in reviving waning interest in the game with his aggressive captaincy.
He will be loved and remembered for a long, long time. I don't think he'll ever be able to be replaced. You know, I've always seen Mr. Benno as the godfather of Australian cricket.
We've lost one of the game's great communicators, a great mate, a great friend, and almost a messiah, really.
The Australian Prime Minister paid tribute to Benno and offered his family a full state funeral.
Richie Benn has been the voice of cricket. There would be very few Australians who have not passed a summer in the company of Richie Benn. He was the accompaniment of an Australian summer. His voice was even more present than the chirping of the cicadas in our suburbs and towns. And that voice, tragically, is now still.
A leg-spinning all-rounder, Benno made his first-class debut for New South Wales at the age of 18 before making his national debut at 21. The first player to score 2,000 test runs and take 200 wickets, Benno was never defeated in a series in 28 matches as captain, setting a benchmark for attacking cricket that his successors have tried to emulate. Well, it's time now to bring you up to speed with all the sports news that you might have missed this week. Here's our sports wrap. Philippe Coutinho produced a moment of magic to earn Liverpool a much-needed 1-0 victory at second-tier Blackburn Rovers in their FA Cup quarter-final replay on Wednesday. The Brazilian fired an accurate low drive in the 70th minute at Ewood Park to earn Brendan Rodgers' side an FA Cup semi-final date with Aston Villa at Wembley on April 19th. It was hardly comfortable and it was not pretty, but for Rodgers, this victory was more than welcome. The first game had ended in a goalless draw at Anfield. Gabon has been chosen to host the 2017 Africa Cup of Nations finals. The 2012 co-hosts won a vote by the Confederation of African Football's Executive Committee in Cairo on Wednesday, ahead of Algeria and Ghana. It will be the second time as hosts for the country, which is located on the west coast of Africa, having previously shared duties with Equatorial Guinea. Original host Libya, where a civil war has halted football, withdrew last year from staging the tournament. The tournament will be played in January and February. Former Wimbledon champion Goran Ivanisevic says India can't forever sit on the laurels of greats like Leander Paes, and it must have a top 10 singles player for tennis to thrive in the country. Ivanisevic, best known for his straight talk and a booming serve, feels the Indian players are not pushing hard enough despite having the skill. However, he is surprised to find that girls are more talented than boys. Mick Schumacher generated huge amounts of media interest on Wednesday as the teenage son of Michael Schumacher began official testing before his Formula 4 Junior Series debut. Cameras followed the shy 16-year-old wherever he went at the motorsport arena in Germany as he tested with Team Van Amersfoort of the Netherlands. Schumacher Jr. is set to make his Junior Series debut in the opener to the 8-race season on April 26th. A mouth-watering showdown between Usain Bolt and Justin Gatlin could be a month away as the two rival sprinters are set to compete at next month's IAAF World Relays in the Bahamas. Gatlin's participation was confirmed on Wednesday, a day after the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association said Bolt will also compete. While Bolt and Gatlin's confirmation for the event offers a chance for the sprinters to clash, much will depend on how the Jamaican and US coaches line up their squads in the 4x100 and 4x200 relays. Well, moving on now, here's a look at what's creating a buzz in the world of show business. Here's our entertainment roundup.
James Bay's recently released debut album Chaos in the Calm has dominated the charts across the globe. The album made its debut at number 1 on the official charts in the 24-year-old singer's native United Kingdom and also hit number 1 in New Zealand and Ireland on both the Irish album and singles chart, knocking Hosier off the top spot. The album also reached number 1 on iTunes in over 20 territories, including UK, Australia, New Zealand, Austria, Switzerland, Ireland and more. Add another fairy tale conversion to live action in Disney's list, as the studio is now working on a project loosely inspired by Pinocchio. The feature, which is being penned by Peter Hedges, will actually focus on the relationship between a father and a son, the ramifications of lying and creating stories, and living in a fantasy world. Pinocchio was the brainchild of author Carlo Collodi, who wrote the 1883 novel The Adventures of Pinocchio. Disney is already working on bringing a lot of popular fairy tales to life with live action. Oscar-winning director Ang Lee has added Vin Diesel and Chris Tucker to the A-list cast for his adaptation of the Ben Fountain novel Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. The tri-star project, which already stars newcomer Joe Alwyn, Steve Martin, Garrett Hedlund and Kristen Stewart, will be shot in 3D and 4K. The story focuses on 19-year-old Private Billy Lynn and his company who survive a harrowing Iraq battle that is captured by news cameras. Taylor Swift's mother has been diagnosed with cancer, and the singer shared the sad news with her fans because her mom, Andrea Finlay, asked her to do so. The 25-year-old singer took to Twitter and wrote to her nearly 56 million followers. The singer said that it was only after she had pushed her mom to go for a checkup that she went and they found out she had cancer. She urged her fans to push their parents to take out time from their busy schedules and get checked.
Finally, of course, commuters in Brussels could soon find themselves travelling to work around the European capital in a vehicle that is very common on Indian roads. The Mobiloo vehicle is the first of its kind in Belgium, running exclusively on electricity in the hope of offering an alternative to the city's traditional transport methods. I'm going to leave you with these visuals from Brussels. See you again next time.